back to the Dethroning Your Inner Critic YouTube channel. I'm Joanna Kleinman, psychotherapist, CEO of Dethroning Your Inner Critic coaching company, and creator of the M.I.N.D Method, which is a transformational framework that helps you unhook from the voice of your inner critic so you can live your life from the truth of who you really are. So in today's episode, we're diving into a conversation I feel everybody needs to hear. So the episode is called Why We Suffer, the hidden cause behind our struggles and how to break free. Because here's the truth that most people don't talk about. See, we think we suffer because of our circumstances. Maybe it's something in our career, or maybe something's happening in our relationship or our health, or we want to make more money, or something happened in our past. But the real cause of suffering is not out there. It's not what's happening in your life. It's in the voice you're listening to inside your mind. And that's the voice that's telling you that something is wrong, that you're not yet enough, that something is missing, and that peace and fulfillment are always just around the corner, right? If you just do more, if you be better, if you fix something, if you get somebody to think a certain way about you. Now, this is all the voice of your inner critic. Some people call it the ego. And unless you know how to separate yourself from that voice, it will quietly rule every part of your life. And that's why today's episode is so important, because awakening from your inner critic mind is not a one-time breakthrough. It's not about having a huge realization and suddenly being free from struggle forever. It's a lifelong practice, a moment by moment journey of unhooking and surrendering and aligning with what is underneath that automatic inner critic self, which is your authentic self. So let me break this down, okay? Most people live their entire lives inside a version of themselves that isn't who they truly are. So it is a version that's shaped by fear, by pain, by survival strategies formed in childhood. See, you were taught who to be in order to feel safe and accepted and loved. Not consciously taught, but unconsciously taught. And you built your identity around that. Now, this is the part of you that I call your inner critic self. So it's that internal narrator that says, this is who I am, and this is how life works, and this is what I need in order to be okay. But the secret to that identity is that's not you. That's just a story. It's actually a mental construct that was automatically designed to protect you. And it is the root cause of our suffering, because when we live from our inner critic self, we live in constant tension. We chase success, but we never feel fully successful. We try to control life, but we still feel anxious. And we work on ourselves, but we never quite feel whole. Now, why is that? Because we are listening to a voice that was never meant to lead us. And this is where the M.I.N.D Method comes in, because it's not just a mindset tool, it's actually spiritual technology. It is a way to help you recognize the voice of your inner critic and be able to unhook yourself from it and come back to the deeper truth of who you really are. Because the opposite of suffering is not perfection, it's presence. And the more that you practice living from your authentic self, that's the part of you that's still and grounded and connected and already whole. So the more that you live from that authentic self, the more you break free from the cycle of struggle. So let me ask you something. Have you ever had a moment where life looks really good on the outside, but you still feel like something's missing or a shoe is about to drop, right? That's not a flaw. That's not failure. That's your authentic self trying to get your attention. Because what you're looking for isn't out there, it's inside. It's beneath that noise, beneath the striving, beneath the avoidance of pain, beneath the fear of what could happen. Okay. But so to access what's underneath, you have to stop believing that the thoughts in your mind are facts. You must start seeing it as an invented, made up story. Now, here's what I've seen over and over and over again with my clients who have gone through my Mastering Your Mind program, and I've seen it in myself too. Every time we suffer emotionally, we can trace it back to one belief, and that is, I need something else to feel the way that I want to feel. And that belief is the root of the inner critic's entire identity. So it tells you that this isn't it. You're not enough. That peace is just one step away, but it's never here. And so the more that you chase that illusion, the more suffering you create. Now, the irony is the striving that's supposed to bring us peace is the very thing that's keeping us from it. Okay, that's why awakening is a practice. So it's not about getting rid of the inner critic. You're never going to get rid of the inner critic. It's about learning to recognize it, to question it, to stop letting it run the show. So when I first started waking up to this, I realized how deeply I had built my entire identity around being admired, achieving, doing everything right. And even though I had the business and the credentials and the family and the friendships and the health, I still felt a quiet dread, a whisper that something was still off. And that is because my inner critic was still in charge. So it wasn't until I started looking at what I'm really afraid of if I don't get what my inner critic says I need. And that is when I started to see the root of all suffering. So that was the beginning of my real freedom, not by fixing that voice, because it's still here with me right now, right? But by learning to stop believing it, by no longer needing the voice to go away in order to feel okay, by learning to sit in the discomfort and use it as my greatest teacher. So that is actually where we find peace. And that doesn't mean we find it in a peak moment. We find peace as a new baseline. That's exactly what I want you to take away from today, because the truth is, most of us are walking around addicted to the inner critic's demands, right? If I can just get that promotion, if I can just lose that weight, if I can fix my relationship, if I can get these people to value me, then I will finally feel whole. But the inner critic never delivers on that promise. Because it's really a game you can't win. And the more that you try, the more exhausted and empty you feel. And that doesn't mean that we give up on reaching for our dreams. But what I want you to understand is when you are allowing your inner critic to govern your life, you may be reaching for your dreams. You may even achieve those dreams, but it is not going to give you the satisfaction that you think that it will. So there is another way. There's a way to live where you're no longer chasing your worth because you already know your worth now. And where peace doesn't depend on your circumstances, but it actually comes from inside. and where you stop managing your emotions and you actually start welcoming all of your emotions because they are there to teach you the very thing that perhaps you've been running away from for your whole life. So even when your suffering becomes a teacher, not something to escape, but something to transform, that is when you are free. And that's what the mind method is all about. It's a process of disentangling your authentic self from the grip of your inner critic so you can stop suffering and start living from a place of freedom. Because your authentic self doesn't chase, it doesn't hustle for approval, it doesn't live in fear. Your authentic self simply is. That version of you is already here now. You don't need to become her. You have to remember her. So if this message spoke to you, you should take my free inner critic assessment. It will show you which of the 5 inner critics is running your mind and how to begin separating from its voice. You'll find the link below. And if you're ready to go even deeper, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss an episode, because your freedom begins the moment that you stop believing that you're not already whole, because you are not your inner critic. You are not broken. You already are enough, and you have everything you need to break free. I'll see you in the next episode.